But before we get too deep into the nonsense, we were both at BMO Field last night, and that's where we're going to start, Mitch, because the Canadian men's national team defeated Panama 2-1 in an international friendly, their first game on home soil under Jesse Marsh, their first game at home since the Copa America, the first game at home in a very long time, I think since they lost to Jamaica in the Nations League quarterfinals. Is that right?
Yeah.
So it was a great night at BMO Field and a fantastic night for us at the Canadian Premier League because we saw Kwasi Poku, formerly until about a month and a half ago of Forge FC, CPL's record transfer, now of RWD Molenbeek in Belgium, gets on the field for an absolute garbage time cap, doesn't touch the ball, but still, Kwasi Poku is a Canadian senior international. But Mitch, let's start with the game itself. I think you were there in the stands. It looked very cold. I did not envy that you were out with the fans in the grandstand. But what did you make of this game?
Well, first and foremost, I think by now, thankfully, we've had enough cold, rainy days at BMO Field of meaning that I think we've all learned how to dress. So it wasn't too bad there in the stands. But I mean, it wasn't, it certainly wasn't their best performance under Jesse Marsh so far. There was some uneven moments. I think the first 15 minutes of the second half are a stretch that they would really like to have back leading up to obviously that Panama goal and allowing Panama back into a game where really they dominated the first half, but for just a little bit of finishing, but some promising signs. Obviously, I think the way they were able to get to the final third, even if it didn't quite click once they got there, was really impressive. It was pretty fluid. They had some very nice play down both of the wings. I think obviously Moise Bombito is another player who we're going to talk about a lot in the next few years because he was fantastic and bailed them out of a few situations. But I do think that the fact that there was a bit of adversity in this game and they were able to overcome it and, get a win is majorly positive. This felt, especially once Panama scored and in the short period thereafter, a little bit like that Jamaica game the last time they were at BMO Field, where Canada was so good in that first half and then just the wheels fell off in the second half. But this time, they're able to make some changes. I think bringing on Liam Miller really transformed that side, and a player who, maybe didn't have the best Copa America, but remains a very important piece for this national team where you see why, and the assist he gets to Jonathan David. And yeah, again, just to be able to turn maybe not their best performance into a win at home in front of a great crowd. I think more than not, there's just mostly positives to take out of this one.
Yeah, and it was a great crowd, by the way. Shout out all 23,000 people that were out there in the cold. It was cold. It was windy. It looked like it was a little bit rainy at times. The pitch was not in great shape. So not necessarily the conditions for a classic of tiki-taka football. Maybe that's why it was a little bit disjointed and direct at times. But, you mentioned the adversity. Jesse Marsh spoke about how he thought Canada's best stretch of the game was the 20 minutes after Panama equalized. And he's definitely right. And you could see kind of how important it was to Canada to win this game on home soil and go searching for that second goal. You could see they had 20 minutes to go and they were still taking corners quickly and throw-ins as fast as they could. They were playing forward. They weren't really knocking the ball around. They were trying to go and score a goal and waste no time. They won't look like they wanted to score 2 or 3 goals in the last 15 minutes. They only found the one. But, Mitch, you mentioned a couple of names already. Who stood out to you for Canada in this game? Because it feels like every camp we've had under Jesse Marsh, at least 1 or 2 players, their stock seems to continue to rise. And I do think that your list here is probably going to continue to start with Moise Bombito. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's crazy how many problems he has solved at the back for Canada just with his defensive awareness and how quick he is at being able to get back. But again, it's not just obviously that speed is one thing, but once he gets back, he more often than not makes the right play, is able to dispossess the player and then not just turn it into another dangerous position. So I think obviously he's a player who continues to be, really part of the spine of this national team now. I think Mathieu Choinière is a guy who's really starting to cement himself as a real option for Canada in the midfield there. You spoke about the kind of quick free kicks and service. I thought his was pretty spot on throughout this game in terms of the midfield, and some of the things he brings there alongside Stefano Eustáquio was great. I mean, Jonathan David, what can you say about this guy at this point? His movement up top was excellent throughout the match, and then obviously, the finish on the goal is outstanding. I know it's one of those that maybe looks simple, but the way he's able to open up and put it into the far post that easily. I mean, again, he's a striker that's playing at the top of his powers right now in one of the top leagues in the world, and that was shown throughout the game. And then again, like I said, Liam Miller, a player who, you know, I still think I think that there's a lot you can do down that left flank for Canada right now between him and Schaffelberg. Where again, I don't mind them starting Schaffelberg honestly, because they have to
Yeah.
deal with, like, a defense has to deal with Schaffelberg for you know, first 50 minutes or 60 minutes or whatever you have. And obviously we know what he can bring. And then you bring Liam Miller off the bench. It's a different kind of player who can cut in, who can beat you down the line, who can open up space for Alphonso Davies to find those runs down the line. Like, that's such a weapon for Canada to have both of them right now. And I think that's going to be a big issue for other teams going forward, and something that continues to develop for this Canadian men's national team.
Yeah, and Liam Miller, by the way, is a player who got a lot of credit from Jesse Marsh after the game. He said he was trying to make something happen every time he touched the ball in his 20 odd minutes on the pitch. And he's absolutely right, and obviously justly rewarded with the assist on that second goal. But I mean, it is kind of 80% Jonathan David building that play, starting it, driving towards the box, playing it out to Miller, continuing his run, and then making an incredible finish. Because he's the best striker in CONCACAF, and that's
Yeah,
what you do
no
if you are that.
question.
It's just simply not even close anymore. Yeah, there's a lot of impressive things to like about this Canada. Well, maybe not the full performance, but about the resilience and their ability to dig deep and kind of pull out the result that, again, it's a friendly, but it still matters for FIFA rankings points, CONCACAF
Mhm.
ranking points, which are going to be important for that Nations League quarterfinal and who Canada draw come when it's at November. We still don't
Yeah.
know. It looks like Canada are pretty likely to finish second in the CONCACAF rankings, which I think should be helpful. I think it looks like they're looking at probably a Suriname or maybe a Jamaica in that game. But I think we won't know for sure for a little bit. And obviously, it's always important to win on home soil. And you can see how happy Jesse Marsh was to finally be in Canada uh, coaching this team, and that meant a lot. But speaking of Canada, people who have maybe spent a little more time in Canada is someone like Kwasi Poku, who was developed to the national team level in Canada in the last 3 years with Forge FC of the Canadian Premier League. Mitch, it was about the 90th minute that kind of I saw him run back from the subs behind the goal to the bench, and I was like, oh, I think Canada have already made a bunch of their subs. I think he's just going to take his bib off and sit back down because the game's about to end. And I see him kind of take his training top off, and I'm like, what's going on here? And then we see Joel Waterman also do the same thing, and in a very very strange and kind of emotional moment for the Canadian Premier League, the league's first big export, I'd say, in Joel Waterman, joins its most recent one, and they both get on the pitch at the same time for the Canadian national team. An incredible moment. Unfortunately, Kwasi didn't get super involved with the last 2 minutes of the game. Joel got a real hard shove in the back at one point.
Yeah.
He was right in the middle of it. But Mitch, kind of what was your reaction when you saw that Kwasi was coming into this game?
I mean, pretty special. I don't know if Jesse Marsh is wanting to join our CPL content team at all, but that's probably one of the best pieces of CPL content been put out this year, is the picture
Exactly.
of Waterman lining up alongside Poku with the national team. But yeah, I mean, it's at the end of the day, that's one of the biggest goals for this league, is to produce players who are capable of being impact players for the national team. And the fact that, again, we're wrapping up regular season year 6, and you've got two guys, who are very much a part of this team right now, and we have a bunch of other players who have been in and about around the national team the past few years, is very impressive. And I think it's only the starting point, because again, you see how quickly a guy like Poku can rise from being a everyday solid CPL player to, he gets an opportunity, runs with it, and is now playing in Europe and getting minutes for the national team. Like, there's so many other players throughout this country that, if given that chance, could rise to the same level, I think. So that's what's most exciting about it. And I think, they're two players who fit exactly what you want from the CPL. Waterman coming through the U Sports system, maybe being a bit of a late developer. Poku, coming out of MLS Academy and getting a second chance, maybe in the Canadian Premier League, and using that to his advantage. Like, these are the guys that would have fallen through the cracks in past years. And now we've got two guys here who, again, are playing at the highest level for their country.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we were just chatting with Kwasi a little bit after the game, and you could see it kind of. And he's usually he's a quiet and reserved guy, but you can kind of see the kind of veneer break a little bit. He shows a little bit of emotion when we're like, man, it's been a crazy year for you. I think just under a year ago, about 2 weeks less than a year ago, he was subbed off at halftime in a CPL final with an injury, and he was in tears. And now, in the 11 and a half months since then, he has completely changed his position from left back to striker. He went on to score 10 goals in 14 games for Forge, including massive ones against Montreal and TFC. Moves to Belgium in a league record transfer. Immediately starts succeeding there. They haven't lost a game with him in a lineup, by the way. They're in Molenbeek are in first place. If Poku helps them get promoted to the Belgian top flight, that's huge for everybody involved. None least of which himself, who would be able to test himself in the Belgian top flight, which is a very, very good league. Now he gets his Canada call up. He gets on the pitch immediately. And Jesse Marsh mentioned after the game that he wanted to put Kwasi on the pitch. He's excited to put Kwasi on the pitch because it's kind of a halfway between, it's half of it is a reward for where he is in his career. And that's something that Marsh said that he values. He wants to give guys caps for succeeding even at the club level, but also a reward for how he kind of integrated in training his first week with the national team. Marsh was saying that Kwasi was very, very involved all week, very, very motivated, adaptable. We know he's adaptable. He can play any position on the pitch. If we've been watching the CPL, we know he can do that. He comes in and he gets that reward. So very exciting for us, very exciting for Kwasi, and excited to see if he can become a fixture in this team, continue to establish himself in Belgium and continue to get more and more opportunities with the national team. However, it is time for us to put a bow on that Canada game. We'll see them again in November. It'll be a lot of fun. I think they're at BMO Field again for that the home leg of that CONCACAF Nations League quarterfinal. That'll be another good evening, I'm sure.